Privileged to be with all of you this evening and this morning, my morning. It would be nice if everyone can turn on your cameras so we can have everyone's darshan.
Yeah, Madhvi Sita Mataji puts it very nicely that when the people are not on camera, it's like Brahma Jyoti. When they when they come on the camera, then you have the personal association. Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Sure, so most of them I think are on now. So we'll start. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagragatam Sahagna Shri हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंदा नम ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशिताय हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So I'll try my best to share my thoughts on how we can become more intense in the environment which is tensed around us. I think especially in India, the second wave is you know I mean life is more people are going through a lot of tension, a lot of stress. So I'll just share my screen, just quickly share the presentation I have. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. So last year, actually, I was actually starting a fresh new journey, and I mean, there was a lot of tension, and I didn't know, where I'm heading, how my life is going to be, and this was in sometime in June, and I was figuring out, I was exploring different ways and entering a terrain which was very different. I mean, working in a full-time job to getting into a full-time venture, which is a very different thing, and there's a lot of uncertainty and the material world they talk about VUCA. So I was actually experiencing VUCA like situation, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And that time, I was invited to be part of one panel where there were multiple leaders who were sharing their thoughts. And one of the leaders, talked about gratitude in the material world. I mean, how it's important to be grateful. And the person shared the story of a person named Arthur Ashe. And I don't know how many of you know about Arthur Ashe. So he's from United States. He's a famous tennis player. He used to be a famous tennis player born in 1943. And oh, Aradhya Madhvi Mataji knows about him. Can you share some thoughts? Aradhya Mataji, Madhvi Mataji, would you like to share?
She's not able to unmute, Prabhu. Let me
Sure.
see. I don't know what happened. Um, not sure what's wrong. They should be able to unmute. We have enabled the unmute possibility.
You
Okay.
could continue, I guess, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he was born in 1943 to an African American family, and a lot of struggles. His mother passed away when he was only 7 years old, and after that went through a lot of racial discrimination because he was an African American. And I mean, in 1950s and 60s, if even kids walked, I mean, there was discrimination even against the children. And he had love for tennis, and he couldn't play on several tennis courts, which were, he could only play in tennis courts which were meant for the blacks. And after that, I mean, I believe in few years he became number one when he started playing tennis. I mean, it's a long story. And when he became number one, he could travel international and play tennis in different countries. He was denied visa for different countries, South Africa and many other, such as few other countries which would deny visa to blacks. So, went through a lot of challenges, and eventually he won the Wimbledon. And after he won the Wimbledon, he was um, I think few years later, I think he got married, and after that, he had a severe heart attack, and because of which he retired from his career. And he had a daughter, and few years later, I think in his early 40s, he had a daughter. And after that, few years later, he was contracted with a disease, a terrible disease. He was contracted with AIDS, and in those days there were no solution. There was no solution for AIDS, and he got that disease because he went through a blood transfusion because he was not well. And in that blood transfusion, I believe he got the blood of somebody who had AIDS. And after that, I mean, his life was, I mean, he was trying to help as many people as possible. He had multiple foundations, trying to do as much service as he could. But what happened then is, one of his fans actually, told him, for all the people, why God had to choose you for this terrible disease. Why, I mean, you had to go through all this. And he gave an interesting answer. He said there are 5 million people who play tennis, and some play for fun, but some play for different reasons. And out of those 5 million, only 500,000 they go through professional tennis coaching. Out of those 500,000, 50,000 are the ones who make it to, I believe, Grand Slam or something. And out of uh, 50,000 are the ones who actually play in some circuit. And out of those 50,000, 5,000 play in Grand Slam. And out of those 5,000, only 50 are allowed to play in Wimbledon. And out of those 50, only I believe 4 go into the semi-finals of Wimbledon, and out of those 4, 2 go in finals, and out of those 2, only 1 wins the final. And he was saying that, when I was holding the cup, which you can see in his hand, I never told God, why me? I never said, God, why, you chose me for all the success which you gave me. So in the times of, when I am going through distress, why should I trouble him? And he was actually expressing his gratitude for what all he has received in his life. And at that time, I mean, although I was on the part of the panel, and I was actually reflecting on my life, and I was thinking, I'm so ungrateful, and I've been cribbing, uh, last year I experienced, I lost my job, and I was thinking, why me? Why I had to go through this? And I was lamenting, I mean, I had just joined a new company. It was 4.5 months. And prior to that, I was working in a company for 12 years. I had a stable job. Everything was going well. And I was thinking, why this had to happen with me? And I was lamenting, why did I leave the stable job? And, if I would have continued there, life would have been better. Life would have been more stable. And I wouldn't have seen this kind of situation. And it was, I mean, I was actually operating in a universe of negativity. And then, because the story was narrated by someone, and this helped me reflect, and I started thinking, I said, I'm so fortunate, and because of Srila Prabhupada, I'm in kind of, he's built a house in which, one can peacefully live. Srila Prabhupada said the whole world can live in this house. And I'm so blessed to have Krishna consciousness in my life, and I started valuing the gifts in my life. And there's a famous verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Gona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. And I was thinking, I mean, because of Srila Prabhupada, I got mercy of Guru because of, getting a Guru. I mean, the Bhakti Lata beach was planted in my heart. And instead of, thinking about, the positives in my life, why am I, meditating on the negatives in life? Like a fly which actually, harps on the garbage. And then I started thinking about, one by one, different images began to flash in my mind. I was thinking about Sridhar Swami. I don't know how many of you know His Holiness Sridhar Swami. Unfortunately, left us, departed from the world in 2004, March 2004, 14th March 2004. And I was thinking, how fortunate I was. I mean, I got married on 9th December 2003. And coincidentally, Sridhar Swami was that time living in Juhu Temple, and he happened to pass by, our reception area where we had reception in the temple hall. I mean, next to the temple hall, they have a big hall. They have a facility in ISKCON Juhu. And for some reason, he said, when one devotee asked whose wedding it is, and the devotee said, it's from our congregation, he's getting married. And he was so happy. He said, devotees should get married in temples only as far as possible, because that way the Lakshmi will be with our temple. They'll be able to indirectly serve. It's an indirect donation. And he says, I would love to meet them. And he just walked in, and at that time, he came on stage, he met us, and he had a big smile. He always smiled. He was known as the Jolly Swami in ISKCON. And he had a T-shirt in which, and the cap which he was wearing. His cap said, "I'm Prabhupada's dog," and his T-shirt said, he said, "You always keep these two instructions in mind. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna." And he had in bold in his T-shirt written, "Chant Hare Krishna and be happy." And I was thinking about that moment, and I didn't know at that point of time that he was actually going through liver cancer. And this is later on, I realized that he was going through liver cancer, and he only had few months to live. He had three desires at that point of time when he was diagnosed with liver cancer. One desire was that he wanted to reach Mayapur, and second was he wanted to personally witness the Panchatattva installation, which happened in 2004. And his third desire was wanted to serve the deities. And by Krishna's mercy, all his desires got fulfilled. And after that, few days later, he left from this world. But an amazing personality. And I was actually being grateful. I was thinking, I believe ours was the last wedding he actually kind of attended, and kind of, came and blessed us. And I started counting my blessings in my life. Then we know about His Grace Pankaj Angri Prabhu. Unfortunately, we will miss his association. He departed 2 weeks ago. Few days ago. And we know, I mean, if we, go into lives of all of the pictures which you see on the screen, I mean, they went through tense situations. I mean, but what we see in the end, they were intense. They were very intense. Although Arthur Ashe might, from a material perspective, I mean, whatever faith he had or whatever he believed in, I mean, he had that intensity, which kind of is inspiring when we, read about such people. And Pankaj Angri Prabhu, we see, I mean, in his last days, he was in Calcutta. He was um, having oxygen issues, and in that situation, he said, "I want to go to Mayapur. I want to be in Mayapur." And he has that intensity. He had that connection, and he had that, desire to be close to the Lord. And we must have prayed for so many devotees. I mean, I had reached out a couple of times to him, to pray for different people. I mean, we had family stresses. My mother-in-law went through lot of medical issues, and several times we used to write to them, and within minutes he would respond, and he would pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. And we were expressing our gratitude in whichever ways possible, and by remembering at least. So when I started writing, and writing down, I mean, when you think, I believe you should ink it. Don't just leave it there, because otherwise, our thoughts remain as thoughts. So I started writing down, okay, which are the number, and then I started being grateful to my teachers, to my friends who have played a big role in my life. And I felt, to be intense in our life, I mean, one formula which I feel can work well is the GEM formula. So I'll start with the G. One is the gratitude. Are we grateful to the Supreme Lord for, giving us a human form of life. That 8.4 million species, and this human form of life, we get opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, when I started making the list, I was actually grateful to my mother also, because, she was critical when I was in a womb, and she had doctors actually recommended that she should, abort me. And when I, heard those stories, that time I didn't understand. I wasn't in Krishna consciousness, but, over the period of years, I feel grateful. I mean, if she would have aborted me, I would have lost the opportunity in this human form of life. And grateful to family. I mean, they do so much for us. Grateful to teachers. I mean, I know a history teacher, she used to teach me for free because I couldn't afford a tuition. And she would call me after hours to her home, and she would take out time from her busy schedule to, um, spend that time. And there are so many friends, mentors, and I mean, when I think of mentors, then Madhupati Prabhu comes to my mind, because I had the privilege of living with him when I was in New Jersey in the temple. We were staying together for quite some time, and I had the fortune of learning so many things being under him. And then devotees. I mean, devotees are so amazing. And just imagine if devotees are not there. I mean, if we are on our deathbed and if we are given two choices, what would we prefer? If somebody says, I'll give you $1 million, and the person is standing on one side of the bed, and on the other side of the bed, you have option to pick devotees. So what would we pick at that point of time? I think, I mean, devotees would matter the most, because, what matters at that point of time is our next destination, where we are heading. And so many unknown people whom we come across, at times they help us, they guide us in our journey, and then they go. I mean, they come, I think, and we don't at times even know, their names. We don't even know their names. So, I mean, I felt sad in between that, I didn't know the name of our person who delivers milk at our home, and he's been delivering for 20 years. And all we knew is Dudwala. Everybody calls him Dudwala or milkman. And after 20 years, kind of, I asked him, what is your name? And I was amazed to know his name was Murli Krishna. He had a beautiful name, and but we were referring him, or calling him as milkman. And that too, I asked him because I was touched during the time of, initial time of breakdown of COVID. He said, you guys don't go out. I'm anyways coming to deliver milk. In addition to that, if you need anything, I'll be happy to deliver at your place. So I think small instances, and then I felt, being grateful for so many amazing things that have happened in life. And the whole thing changed. From tense, the situation turned upside down. It became much better. And one example which comes to my mind is, prayers of Queen Kunti, how much troubles and tribulations she went through. And in spite of that, she prays. And it's an amazing personality. If we read it in Bhagavatam, I mean, if you read, I mean, her history, I mean, she's one personality went through so much struggle in spite of being Krishna's aunt. She went, I mean, more struggles than Mother Devaki. If we do, many a times we do analysis and comparative comparisons between people. And Kunti Maharani, I mean, if we see her father gave her away when she was a child, um, you know, um, Sunasen, I believe, gave her away to Kunti Bhoj, and there, I mean, she had, she gave birth to Karna, which was before marriage, and that was would have been I mean, if it would have, the news would have become public, she would have been in a bigger trouble in the society we lived in, and so many different challenges. And then, I mean, children, her husband, departed from the world early. She became a widow, and after she became a widow, she had to raise 5 children. And raising 5 children in a toxic environment. I mean, imagine living with Kurus. I mean, we hear only few stories. Bhima was poisoned and thrown in the water river, and then he was saved by the Nagas, and so many different stories. We just hear those different small capsules. Okay, Pandavas went through this trouble. They went through Lakshagre, where they were in the house of Lak, where they're trying to burn when they were, alive. So many different challenges, and these are only the few, kind of the key. I think in cricket and football they show those highlights. I mean, we just hear those highlights, but just imagine 365 days living in a toxic environment with people like Duryodhan, Dushasan, Shakuni. I mean, when you just think about their images and just think about living with them 365 days a year. And in that, in spite of going through those situations, Kunti Maharani is praying that, Vipada Sampad, I don't mind these miseries coming again and again in my life, because when these miseries are there, I'll remember you, my Lord. And she's offering that gratitude. I mean, in Bhagavatam, there's one verse in which she offers, I mean, my dear Krishna, your Lordship has protected us from all the poison cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwatthama. And Krishna saves Parikshit Maharaj from the weapon of Ashwatthama. And she offers that gratitude for every small thing what Krishna has done for them. And then she says, I wish all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we see you again and again. For seeing you means no longer repeated birth and death. And there's an amazing verse in Bhagavatam which, she narrates. I mean, Tvai me nanya vishaya matir madhu pate sakrit rati mudava danda gange mogam udanvati. And O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly unto you without being diverted to anyone else. As an amazing prayers of gratitude. If we dive deeper into her life, she was intense. She was very intense in her devotion to Krishna. So the next we come is, going an extra mile. When we are grateful for what we have received, then we will be willing to go an extra mile. If we are grateful, if we value what we have received, we'll be willing to go an extra mile. We won't take it for granted. And we see amazing examples. I mean, how we go. I mean, we can read in reading Bhagavad Gita, taking care of our health, serving devotees, raising funds for temple, book distribution, taking association. We can take that extra effort, right? They said one moment's association can transform our life. That eagerness is there. Like, if there is an amazing devotee, or, all devotees are amazing, are we going an extra mile to take that association? Are we taking an extra effort to take that association? And we can learn from some amazing examples like Hanumanji. We can learn. I mean, he went an extra mile. His service was to find Mother Sita, right? When he went to Lanka, in Ramayana, we read, different monkeys went into different directions to find where is Sita. And Hanumanji ends up in Lanka. He finds Sita. He meets Mother Sita, and after that, we see, he gets caught, and then he's brought to the assembly of Ravana. And just imagine the tense situation when they decide that, let's put his tail on fire. And it's not an easy thing. I mean, if the tail is on fire for a monkey, I mean, even if one part of our body is on fire, just imagine how tense one might get. But in that tense situation, Hanumanji is thinking about, going an extra mile to do something much bigger service. And that he turned, the tense situation, he worked with much greater intensity. He burned the Lanka. He put the entire Lanka on fire. Ghatotkacha is another example which comes to my mind. I don't know how many of you have seen, when I was growing up as a child, we used to often see the Mahabharat serial of B.R. Chopra. And even in that serial, we used to, one point which kind of, um, stayed with me, especially when, Karna fires the Shakti weapon to Ghatotkacha, and he fires to Shakti weapons. And at that time, what happens is he's in tremendous amount of pain. It's a tense situation. His father Bhim is standing next to him, and can see. I mean, for father, the biggest disaster is to see his son depart in front of him. And while his son is in that state, Bhim is not worried about his death or anything. Yes, he's concerned. I mean, he has that love, but what is he asking him to become more intense in your service, increase your size and fall on the enemy's side, so you can do more service before you depart from this world. And then I was thinking, if Ghatotkacha, who is about to die, can become more intense, can increase his size, why can't you know, uh, you know, I mean, for me, I mean, the things which I go through, I mean, are much petty things compared to the state he was in. To some extent, I can seek inspiration from him to, do at least take some baby steps in going an extra mile. Bhishma Dev, we see again an amazing example. He was on the bed of arrows. Just imagine being on bed of arrows. One arrow pierces our body. How much pain will we go through? It is every part of his body. There are not even, I think in Bhagavatam it is written that even the finger couldn't pass. That many arrows Arjuna shot at Bhishma Dev. And the blood was coming out from every part of his body. And he was on the bed of arrows. And at that time, he goes an extra mile to serve Maharaj Yudhishthira is giving instructions, some amazing instructions Bhishma Dev gives. And then the Lord asked him to go an extra mile. In fact, in his case, the Lord actually had the desire that Bhishma Dev, gives some instruction. And Bhishma Dev is saying, I would love to go an extra mile. And he meditates at Lord, I would love to serve you in this situation, but I am in tremendous amount of pain. But within seconds, the Lord frees him from all the material pain just by his glance. And then he was able to speak for quite some time, and he gave some amazing instructions. He gave some amazing instruction. He said, yeah, let me begin by investing my time in thinking, feeling, and willing of Krishna. I've been longing to, engage in different subjects and occupational duties and all, and he thinks about Krishna at that moment, full focus on Krishna, and then he offers service to Maharaj Yudhishthira. In fact, in case of Pandavas also we see Pandavas, in success or failure, only center which they had in their lives was Krishna. And then we see after, Yudhishthira Maharaj was thrown as an emperor, the first thing he did was Rajasuya Yagya. Why? To establish supremacy of Krishna, to worship Krishna. The Agra Puja which they did was of Krishna, which kind of agitated Shishupal, and then Shishupal got killed. He committed those 100 offenses against Krishna. And so we see amazing, and there's an amazing verse in Shrimad Bhagavatam 1.9.27, which I highly recommend everybody reads. I mean, this one verse actually gives essence of how one can, go an extra mile in one's life, or on what principles one, based on which one can live their life. And it's an amazing verse. Dana dharma, Raja dharma, Moksha dharma, Vibhagashas, Stri dharma, Bhagavad dharma, Samasha Vyasa Yogataha. And in this, he explains, the divisions, acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of a king, activities for salvation. Then he describes the duties of women and devotees, both, and he describes it briefly and extensively in this book. I mean, Prabhupada has written, this is one of those longest purports which I have read. And I would highly recommend. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, else we would have read the purport. Purport itself will take, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. So in addition, the last thing, make Krishna the center of your life. And, we have been given Srila Prabhupada's mercy, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, the 9 processes of devotional service. We can start with whichever, we are comfortable with in the initial stage, and slowly and gradually, move and add multiple processes in our life. And it's so easy, and we have so many amazing examples from Parikshit Maharaj to Sukhdev Goswami and Ritu Maharaj, and so many, Hanumanji, Arjuna, Bali Maharaj, so many wonderful examples in Bhagavatam. And if you just read their stories and, read their, experiences, read their, activities, I mean, we will be inspired simply to make Krishna as the center of their life, center of our life. And Uttara is an amazing example which comes to my mind. And I was reading, and she's such an amazing, when Parikshit Maharaj was in her womb, the only personality she thought of was Krishna, especially when Ashwatthama actually fired a Brahmastra on her womb to kill her child, who was only heir to the throne in the lineage of Pandavas. And in that situation, she's praying. She offers amazing prayers to Krishna, and one of the verses is a beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Pahi Pahi Maha Yogin, Deva Deva Jagatpate, Nanyam Tvad Abhayam Pasye, Yatra Mrityu Parasparam. In that situation, he's like, I'm not worried about my own life, just protect my child, protect my child. O Lord of Lords, O Lord of the universe, you're the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there's no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality. And Srila Prabhupada writes amazing, and the paragraph in the purport is amazing. In this world of duality, everyone is envious of all others. Prabhupada says everyone is envious of all others, and death is inevitable. And due to the dual existence of matter and spirit, the Lord is the only shelter of fearlessness for the surrendered soul. One cannot save himself from the cruel hands of death in the material world without having surrendered himself at the lotus feet of the Lord. And it's an amazing purpose. This world is full of duality. We see for small things, people envy. I mean, if somebody gets 1% raise, more than what we have been offered, I mean, immediately we feel hurt. Why did he get 1% more? I've also experienced that. I mean, being honest, I mean, 1%, 1% more raise. If we come to know my colleague in the office has got 1% more than me, that 1% is like, it pierces our heart. It comes as a time bomb on our head. Um, so it hurts. And like that, so many different things. I mean, consciously or unconsciously, we don't realize so many different things actually affect us in our lives. Somebody has a better car, somebody has a better facilities, better position, better name, better fame, so many other things, which, for those small things. And we have to always keep in mind, there will always be someone who will be at the top, and there will always be someone who's actually going to occupy that position. Nobody is going to, in this material world of dualities, nobody is going to stay as numero one. We have seen, I still remember, I think when I was there, I think there were many companies like MCI, WorldCom in those days in 1990s when I was in United States. Now, if you talk to the current generation, do you know about MCI, WorldCom? They'll say, what's that? We don't know anything about it. They're gone. These are all Fortune 500 companies. Somewhere I read 300 or 400 out of the top Fortune 500 companies in which were there 50 years ago, 400 are not even there today. They've disappeared from that list. Nobody even knows about them. Rarely anybody talks about them. They are in some history books referred to as case study that you shouldn't become like them. They became complacent. They felt, when they became numero one, pride came before fall. Many other things which are, written down. For them. So I felt Uttara, there's so many things we can learn. Amazing personality, and Bhagavatam is filled with amazing stories and amazing, biographies of so many different great personalities, and then it helps us, it energizes us, it helps us, become more deep in Krishna consciousness, become more intense in our Krishna consciousness, and then we can face all possible tense situations. Lastly, I would like to share, how we can go about putting this gem formula, which I shared, gratitude, extra mile, and making Krishna the center. There are multiple ways, probably if you can make a similar chart and keep it somewhere where you can see this chart every day, it will help you, become intense in your life. Because I always believe 1% inspiration leads to 99% perspiration. So if we are continuously inspired, then we'll be willing to perspire. Then we'll be having that, 99% perspiration will come out of us. And I keep several things in mind, which keep me inspired, which keep me hydrated, right? I don't know if you have experienced, I don't know, many a times when I have been for swimming, after swimming or, going through multiple lapses, I feel dehydrated. Then I badly need water. Or after exercise, I mean, you need hydration because we lose a lot of water, which goes out of our body through sweat. And slogans are one thing which, which kind of, inspire me. I mean, I feel there's one slogan which is Dar ke aage jeet hai. So I feel, yes, I mean, at times we have that fear. What if I'll fail? To try something new in Krishna consciousness, or, try some new avenues. At times we have certain ways of doing things, but to try something new, we feel, we have that fear, whether this will work or not. We worry too much. And if we read about, read the Radha Damodar Vilas and read about, the experiences of devotees who had, who were new in Krishna conscious movement in Srila Prabhupada's time, what we will realize is they would try something different, which was in the boundaries, not, I mean, breaking any rules or regulations. They would try something new, and there was that adventure in Krishna consciousness. There was that rasa in that Krishna consciousness. In fact, I remember Vishnujan Swami, when he used to have Sunday feast, every time he used to have something different, different presentations, different plays, different dramas, different acts. And people would look forward to, the next Sunday, because they knew he's going to, present something different. So you are not fearful that, what would people think, or you would keep trying different things. And then there's another slogan, Ye Dil Mange Mo. It's a famous slogan of army captain, Captain Vikram Batra, who was the hero of the Kargil war in India. And, his boss told him to come back, but he says, no, I don't want to come back. I want to fight. I want to go further. I want to, continue marching further. And he actually captured one of the important strategic posts, which was very important and in the interest of India. And while doing so, he risked his life, and he got, martyred in that war, Kargil war. But he had a famous slogan he lived by, Ye Dil Mange More. I think most of you who have Indian passport, there's one thing which is stamped on your passport, which is Satyameva Jayate. Satyameva Jayate is somebody's slogan, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya's slogan, Satyameva Jayate. So slogans are very powerful. So most of the freedom fighters leveraged on slogans to mobilize people, to inspire people, to create the josh within them to do something for their country. So I felt if they can create that josh at a bodily level, to get independence, why cannot we leverage on slogans to become more intense in our Krishna consciousness? Poetry is another way of one can refer to poetries if you want to go dive deeper. There are many poetries which inspire us. This is a poetry which is my wife leverages on to inspire my children. Koshish karne walon ki haar nahi hoti. At times children give up, and my wife actually narrates this entire poetry. The nanni chiti jab charti hai, the small ant which tries to climb, many a times it falls hundreds and hundreds of times, but she never gives up. She starts, she continuously puts effort, and finally she succeeds in her endeavor. So like that, there are bhajans which we could, write down the title of those bhajans. So when, the bhajans like Manasa Deva Grevo and beautiful essence which, acharyas have put in bhajans. And I love this bhajan in which, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur has written, Maro bhi rakho bhi jo ichha tumhara. And, my Lord, whatever you want to do, you do. It's okay with me. I mean, I will always be grateful. I will always continue to serve you. And then there's Amara Jivan. I mean, it's a beautiful verses. And Amara Jivan, as I try to remind myself, because envy is one thing which kind of blocks us from progressing in our life. And then Amara Jivan has amazing verse, amazing, kind of lines. And one of the lines which is like, Para Dukha Sukhi Sada Mityavasi, Para Sukha Dukha Karo. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes in this bhajan, Amara Jivana Sada Pamera, Nahi ko Punyera Lesha. So he's actually describing, of a common man, how a common man thinks, how a common man lives, the mindset of a common man. And these are beautiful lines in this. It says that, like, when I see Para Dukkha Sukhi, when I see other people, in misery, my heart actually, I have a smile on my face. And when I see other people, Sukhi, I feel hurt, why are they in bliss? So many a times people, they feel, kind of the nature of that envy within us is when we see someone is much way ahead of us, the heart actually gets affected. We feel a bit sad, why is he able to do it and I'm not able to do it? Why wrong things happen to me and it didn't happen to me? Look at others, everyone is doing well except me. So it hurts to some extent. And then, stories play a big role. We all, stories are something which I've always, I mean, if I ask any one of you, do you remember the story of a crow sitting on a jar? How many of you remember the story of crow sitting on jar? I think Rukmavati Mataji raised her hand. Anyone else? Only one person remembers the story, crow sitting on a jar? Or everyone? So in most of the forums, when I've asked this question, almost 90% people raise their hands. I can see more hands being raised. And we heard this story when we were in first grade. We heard this story. Lion and mouse, we see, lion and mouse, yes, we need, everybody is important in this life. I mean, that's something which I learned from the kids' storybooks, lion and mouse. We have this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Asti Gavini Suni Cheva Sapakeza Pandita Samadarshina, in which, Krishna says that you look at everyone with equal vision, whether it's a Brahmana, whether it's a dog eater, it's anyone else. But to put that in practice at times, it's very difficult. So I get inspiration from stories like Lion and a Mouse. When Lion was stuck in the net, the mouse actually, helped him out to come out of that net. And that's something which helps me, to try and, bring, inspires me to, look from a different angle, that every individual is important. I should respect everyone rather than thinking he's big, he's small, I should give him more respect. I can, it's okay if I don't give him much respect. And So Khadim story is another. I mean, unfortunately we don't have time, but this is a story which this is my personal experience, which I experienced in one store, which was a Khadim store. I'll cut the story short. In 2019, actually, I had gone to buy footwear, and I entered the store at 9:45. The store closes at 9:30 in the night, and the guy at the store said, I was walking out of the store. He says, no, no, don't walk out. It's okay if I have to stay late to serve you. And the amount of experience he gave me, the kind of experience he gave me, it just moved my heart. And I kind of appreciated him. I was thanking him, and he became emotional, and he was saying, I'm so much used to the only thing which I see is people's feet, and I just help them change their shoes. I show them different shoes, make them wear different pair of shoes, and then they pick the ones which they like. And he says, I only see people's feet throughout the day. That's my profession. As a person who works in a store, uh, a salesperson in the footwear store. And then, that some minor appreciation, he was became emotional. He says, that this little appreciation means a lot to me. And he was in bliss. It's a long story. And the amount of, you know, um, warmth he gave us, the personalism which I experienced. And that story inspires me that I also want to become like a salesman in the footwear store. So like that, we have so many experiences. And if you can write those titles down, okay, then we'll remember those experiences. Those experiences will help us become a better version of ourselves. So are we becoming a new version of ourselves every day? Otherwise, if we continue with the same monotony, we continue in the same way, then there's very little progress we'll make. But if we start, working on ourselves, I mean, if we see cricketers or we see football players or any other players, sports people, they continuously work out on everyday basis, so they can bring out their newer version on everyday basis. So in addition to that, the quotes are very powerful. Different quotes actually lead to different kind of inspiration. And there are several quotes which have inspired me. And one of the quotes is of Mahatma Gandhi, when he says, be the change you want to see. Many a times you want to change others, but are we willing to live the change? Even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has a famous quote in which says, do not try to see faults in others. When you see faults in others, remember the four fingers comes to you. See faults in yourself before you see faults in others. And then Martin Luther King has a famous quote: if you can't fly, then walk. If you can't walk, then at least crawl. If you make sure you keep moving all the time. And it reminds me of the interaction I had with His Holiness Radhanath Swami years ago. At that time, I was in Delhi with him, traveling with him in New Delhi, and I told Maharaj that, Maharaj, I liked one of the things which you told in your class, in which you quoted Jesus Christ. And he said, what did you like about Jesus Christ? I said, the statement which you made, Jesus Christ said, when you are lukewarm, I'll spit on you. So he said, you got it wrong. He smiled and said, you got it wrong. You didn't get that point right. So he said, Jesus Christ didn't say spit on you. He said, I'll spit you out. That means I'll spit you out. I don't want to see you. So don't be lukewarm in life. So when I came across this verse continuously reminds me that I don't want to be lukewarm in my life. I have to keep moving. If I can't fly, then I must at least walk. If I can't walk, I must at least crawl. But I must keep moving. I must keep making progress. So like that, WhatsApp DPs, I mean, so many devotees, non-devotees, they have amazing WhatsApp DP messages. And I, at times, to establish or build relations with people, I leverage on those WhatsApp DPs. And I learn also from those WhatsApp DPs. I mean, I've come across some amazing statements like determined and look up and smile and many, many other statements on people's WhatsApp DPs. So those WhatsApp DPs can also be source of inspiration, which can inspire us and, can help us be hydrated in our journey. So like that, then there are biographies. I mean, Srila Prabhupada's biography. I mean, when we read different biographies of Vaishnav saints, Vaishnav acharyas, we actually get the essence of their life. We actually get the way we can live our life, or or follow in their footsteps. We get direction. This is, these are the things or changes we should be making in our life. And like that, there are so many different biographies. I mean, I read biographies of non-devotees also. Marie Curie, I mean, is one. I mean, she selflessly worked on the radium. She's a Nobel Prize winner for radium. And one of the things which I learned from her, and she was not well off, financially well off, and many people used to ask her that, why don't you patent radium in your name? You'll mint millions and millions and millions of dollars. She said, I didn't work on this for my own gain, but I worked for the welfare of others. And I would be more happy that the community benefits rather than me benefiting from this. And that requires a lot of selflessness, a lot of, detachment. I mean, you have an opportunity to make millions and millions of dollars, but what you are seeing, on one hand, you are seeing, the welfare of others. Because if she would have patented, the thing would have become more expensive. She would have got royalty. Many people wouldn't have been able to afford it, but she went beyond. Then I felt, that selflessness is required in Krishna consciousness. And we don't do business with Krishna. Okay, Krishna, I want so and so return, give me $1 million. I've, done so much of, put so much of effort. I've been doing bhakti for so many years. I want return for my bhakti. And in her case, it was her lifetime effort. She put her entire lifetime for that one invention of radium. She didn't have many other options. I mean, many a times people have, 10 products when they invent, and they can say, I'll give one for charity. But no, for her, that was the only thing. So we can get inspiration from different sources. And then Manisha Koirala's book I read, Healed, and she had gone to John Hopkins, I believe, for treatment when she was down with cancer. And I realized, when people, I mean, she is one of the top, she used to be one of the top Bollywood celebrities. And all of a sudden, she was down with cancer, and she actually writes, how my life was. My life was of disgust. I was actually living a toxic life. I mean, at times I was doing 12 movies a year, and those 12 movies, I couldn't even breathe properly. I mean, I had to travel from one place to another. I didn't see the rising sun. And then, I was then thinking, what kind of life I'm living? Only work, 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 work. And there was no life, and only money, money, only glamour, only, all kind of luxuries and all kind of things. She had 11 breakoffs in her life and so much misery. And in that state of cancer, she was able to reflect how she has wasted her life. And she started, becoming intense, and whatever spiritual practice she has. But I learned, I mean, I don't want to wait for things to go wrong in my life. I mean, she got that opportunity to continue. But like, what if, if you are in a state that you can't do anything, you become helpless, then you will lament that I missed on the boat. I mean, I had that opportunity. I think in his Upanishad it says, Atmaha, of killer of the soul, that you have got the favorable boat, which is a human form of body, I think, which is in fully functional form. And in spite of that, if you don't use it or utilize it to make the most out of it, or to become closer to Krishna, then I think you miss on that opportunity. And lastly, verses. There are so many verses which are inspiring. In Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse, Vajasnika Buddhi Reke Kuru Nandana. So that verse helps me to be focused. There's another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which I read few minutes ago. That's something which helps me. And like this, I think this one pager which I have showcased on the screen, if you can make one for yourself, make one for yourself and write down, which slogans inspire you, which poetry inspires you, or it could be something else. Make this chart and, put it somewhere, or, where you can see this every day, so that you can be continuously inspired, because there are times we go through lows. But if we see this again and again, it reiterates the message. Like in the Indian airports, earlier when we used to fly many years ago, there used to be a message which used to go on in the loop: do not touch an unattended baggage. Because if you touch, who knows, there could be a bomb in that bag. So like that, we have to continuously reiterate to ourselves. Like, you have Wednesday Sangha, which is amazing, and it's a Sangha, but how do you manage throughout the week? So if you can reiterate that those learnings on continuous basis, you will be inspired, and you would be fired up for the next Sangha, and you will become a newer version on every different Sangha. In fact, I believe Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to maintain a journal. He used to continuously compare his performance. Okay, 1 week ago, I was at this level in Krishna consciousness, and what did I do in a week's time, and where am I now? And continuous improvement. And they have this something which is, they do in quality, right? Um, one type of audit, I don't know how many of you are in quality department, they do something called kappa audit, corrective action and preventive action. So are we taking that corrective and preventive action? So when we get into this, I mean, when we start, reiterating and when we do those kappa audits in our life, corrective actions and preventive actions, and then I think it's not easier to evolve from tense situation to being intense in whatever we are doing in our life, whether it is spiritual or material. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions. If you have any comments you would like to add to this, would love to hear you out.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Beautiful talk. We'll just take 2 minutes to introduce the other programs we do at the temple, at our congregation. And while devotees collect their questions, and those who have questions, they can raise their hand and or write on the chat room. We'll take the questions as far as possible. 1 second. So at ISKCON of Bergen County, we do weekly programs, includes this Wednesday Sangha and Sunday class, 7:15 to 9 p.m. This week, Her Grace Arundhati Mataji will be speaking on the Happy Mother's Day. And the Thursday Sangha, Thursday, we do the storytelling for the kids, 8:30 to 9 on the same Zoom. And we do the Bhakti Bridge program on Fridays, 7:30 to 9:30. And please contact who wants to join here. And we have a Sunday program as well. In the weekdays, 12 to 12:15 in the afternoon, we do the Bhagavad Gita reading, and daily morning japa, 6 to 8 a.m. So take the advantage of see some of the programs we run throughout the week. And I forgot to mention that Prabhuji is a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, and he is here with us to give us some of the details. Abhay Krishna Prabhu, go ahead with the question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for this wonderful class. So I just had a quick question regarding when you talking about when we are envious of others, when they become spiritually advanced, when they're, well, let's say they're beginners and they progress so fast and we become somewhat jealous of them. I heard from one of the senior devotees. He said that being envious of someone else's spiritual advancement can be very much detrimental to your own spiritual advancement. So how do we actually, get away from that, that thought completely? Because, to make actual progress. So that's my question.
Thank you so much for the nice question. And you can actually see Krishna's hand in everything. If they are more talented than us, it is by Krishna's mercy that they are able to do more than what we can do. So acknowledge that. I would say acknowledge the good in them. Acknowledge that acknowledge that they are also part and parcel of Krishna, and it's only by Krishna's mercy they are able to do. And when we acknowledge, when we appreciate, they say, right, you become what you associate with. So when you appreciate them, those qualities come in you as well. You also get those qualities. A few years ago, I had the privilege of doing a TEDx talk with the youngest master chef of India, and I asked her, what is the secret behind your success? So she said one thing. She shared that secret sauce, which I will never forget. She says, I'm 18. I became the junior master chef in the country at the age of 18. And what I used to do is I used to study. I used to appreciate. I used to acknowledge the recipes of all the best chefs in the world. I would, try to, put that in practice. And while doing so, while learning those, amazing things from them, and how they go about, cooking something, and she would, then continuously meditate how I can make this better. On every dish, she would, see how I can make this better. So she was not envious. She would acknowledge who they were. She would appreciate. she would not only appreciate, she would go one step further. She would try to see, if I can put that in practice, what, they are doing, replicate that. And while replicating, she would see how I can become better. And that's how she got the Junior Master Chef title in India. But this, I felt, from childhood, we learn in schools, do not copy others. But I feel good things must be copied.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was a wonderful quote. Good things shall be copied from others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bay. Others who have questions, they can get ready. Ramchit Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I've known you for many years. And one thing I really appreciate about you is you've been so consistent all these years. Especially if I think of you, if I close my eyes and for a moment, if I think of you, I think of humility. So one may say it's innate nature, but how do you, innate natures also change? How did you maintain the steadiness in your spiritual life and even outside of spiritual life?
I don't know, Prabhuji, about humility, but I feel I go through a lot of humidity in Bombay. I experience a lot of humidity. One thing which, kind of helps is, especially in the work which I do, I try continuously different things. And because I try different things, I go through a lot of failures, and those failures humble me many a times. Many a times that overconfidence which is there, I can make it happen, I can do it. So I work with that explorer's mindset continuously, and that explorer's mindset helps, I think, to some extent to be humble. But at times when you get success, that humility also goes down. But then again, you move on from that, and again try to explore something, try different things and do things differently, move into it. It's like, I get that inspiration from so many. I mean, if Srila Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada at times, would send devotees to China, of all the places in the world. I believe His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj went to China. Now being there and doing something, even if you are able to do 1% of what you can do in other places, is a success. But I think when you go there, I think a lot of them, when they share their experiences, they go through a lot of humbling experiences. How they have to hide, how they have to run, how they have to, being a devotee, if you see, they're actually, Russia, I think when they were doing it, everything was undercover. And I don't know if you have read the book Salted Bread. And if we see, how they were going about doing things, and it actually brings out, so many humble experiences which they have gone through to reach where they are. And in spite of where they are, I think with millions of devotees in Russia, still they continue to be humble and meek. So I think if we read about that, helps to some extent. But as far as I know, I have still got a long way to go when it comes to humility and both consistency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Any other questions? Let me just look around. Okay, so while devotee is thinking about the questions, the topic of tense to intense makes the intensity of the questions a little bit more difficult, looks like. All right, so we'll take a moment, and the topic of tense to intense very nicely summarized with the keyword gem, like that gratitude, extra mile, and make Krishna at the center of your activities. That's a takeaway for us, and so many beautiful examples you gave us. So that will be very helpful for us. And in the meantime, Ramchit Prabhu, you want to speak something?
Yeah, Prabhu, I'm not sure if I missed it, but there was a Khadim story. Did you mention something about it?
Yeah, so Khadim is the name of the store. So the story which I shared, so that was the name of the store, Khadim. And in that store, actually, I met a salesperson who actually
Okay.
was
It's a
selling
famous,
footwear. It's a footwear store.
it's a famous footwear store, is it?
And now it is because they've got a lot of stores across the country.
Okay.
And this actually I picked up from His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj in one of the last lectures which he gave in Juhu, ISKCON Juhu. One devotee asked him, Maharaj, why you are going to university at the age of 50? That is the question one devotee asked him. So Maharaj said, when it comes to learning, I don't see, age is a barrier. When it comes to learning, I feel, learning is something which we should be doing on every moment basis, not on every day, every moment basis. He said, we can even learn from the blade of grass. Right, in Sikshashtakam, I want to be more tolerant than a tree, more humbler than the blade of grass. So he said we can learn from a grass. So why can't we learn from some of the big PhDs? And if we get into their kind of circle, then we can also actually, help them become Krishna conscious.
There's also Srimad Bhagavatam has this famous story of Avaduta Brahmana who had
24 gurus.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Good.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other questions?
Yeah. Also, how do you, I know you preach a lot in the corporate, not necessarily preach, but through, you get in touch with a lot of corporate people also and introduce them to Krishna consciousness. It's an art. So how would you, what's the best way of doing that? So sometimes we may shy away from identifying ourselves as Hare Krishnas. It's okay. But in a subtle way, how can one introduce one to Krishna consciousness in the corporate world?
That's a good question, Prabhuji. I think we can start with, so that's the reason, I'm trying to promote mindfulness, because people are not mindful. And now the best part is the world is talking about hyper-personalization. The world is talking about customer centricity. So, I bring out those elements, you cannot be customer centric unless you are, employee centric within your organization. If you are not, people centric. So we bring it to the level of you at least become a human, become a people centric, at least have those, qualities of, so you can indirectly start bringing in, the element of envy, how you can address envy, how you can. So I have seen, in companies, I mean, two people are being promoted to a higher level, and one person gets a smaller cabin to sit and the other person gets a little bit bigger place to sit. The person who's got a smaller one, he becomes envious. Why did he get a bigger place to sit than me? And that place might be only 10 inches bigger, or maybe, 2-3 feet bigger than the other guy. But he doesn't think, he thinks, the higher management has given him priority compared to me, and becomes envious of that person just for small space. And without which also you are okay. Why you are become envious? Because he got more. So we bring out those examples in the corporate world, that how it can affect you more than it can affect the person who's got more than you. And I've also seen people, they have left their job because of this, because they start burning in envy. Then we see so many governance issues, we see so many different issues, and Bhagavatam has amazing verse, Etavat janma safalyam dehinam yadeishu pranerarther diyavacha shreya acharanam sada. So it's a duty of every human being to serve, either through one's life, through one's wealth, through one's intelligence, or through one's words. So we bring out some of these things can be easily are implementable in the corporate world. So we have to repackage it, and you have to present it to them so that they understand their language, go to their level, and bring out whatever best we can, like leadership lessons from Bhishma Dev. I mean, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 9, text number 27 actually tells how we can address some of the problems. The purport has, Prabhupada has given everything what a leader should have in terms of qualities. Now, if we package that in a way they understand, then they are able to relate to what we are saying. And then we have so many examples of great personalities. There's a book which is Good to Great, which has got amazing examples of people who may not be devotees, but they have lived, or they have the elements of devotees. So instead of giving, now if I have to give, so even Narad Muni, if you say, I mean, he's my inspiration in when Narad Muni was actually preaching to Prachini Barishar, Narad Muni doesn't tell him, oh no, this is wrong with you. You shouldn't be doing this. This is the life you're living. He actually presents an allegorical story of Puranjan. Was Puranjan there? Answer is no. So he created that story. So like that, I mean, there are many amazing stories in Bhagavatam. Can we recreate those stories in a way which can be told to the outside audience in a way that, although it comes from, our religious text, but at the same time, they don't take it that way, because the moment word religion comes, they go on the back foot. But at the end of the day, you are able to convey what you want to convey.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think we have a few more questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Shraddha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for a lovely celebration. Thank you so much for that. Prabhuji, I was just thinking that in India, situation is very, very tense. When I speak to people or when we hear about people, they are dealing with an upsurge which is just going crazy. When people are dealing with near and dear ones dying because there is no oxygen available, when the basic medicines are not available or hospital beds are not available, or for that matter, the oxygen cylinder is available for black, like people, they are charging 1.5 lakh of rupees or 2 lakh of rupees for just one cylinder of oxygen. At that point in time, how to approach, and I'm especially talking about the non-devotees, as to how to, what to tell them so that we could tell them to change their attitude from being tense to become intense. What should be the approach at this trying times when they are losing their loved ones left, right, and center, and they are so helpless, they can't do anything about it.
Yes, so I think, Mataji, even devotees are going through, experiencing similar kind of situation. So what devotees have done recently in the Radha Gopinath temple is they have formed a committee which is, which helps out people. So like in between, the drug was not available, remdesivir. So people didn't know how to get it, from where they can get it. And then they are helping them how to procure those drugs through official channel. Many a times those official channels are not known to people, or at times they don't know whom to approach. So as I said, the verse which is in Bhagavatam, Shreya, I mean, prane rarte diya vacha, either serve with your life, intelligence, words, or, wealth. So we can actually serve, if we can do what best we can do is, forward those messages to other groups. You can help them out. They'll feel better. And from time to time, inquire from people. My wife the other day told me, why don't you write to people and inquire from them, especially non-devotees, how they are doing. And I sent out a lot of messages, and many of them, they wrote that, I'm so touched that you inquire, because in this current times, everybody is so much caught up in their own lives that people don't even check. But if you send that message, I'm just checking in, you're doing well. So people feel good about that. So we can actually serve with words. So if they're not getting oxygen cylinders, they are not getting hospitals, they're not getting. So, but many people are, kind of voicing it on social media. They're voicing it on Twitter, Facebook, other channels. And then somebody, wakes up and tells them, oh, I can help you out in this situation. So in drowning situation, and people are drowning, I mean, this is something which I had heard His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj in one lecture. He says, if you're drowning, what would you do? Will you say help, or would you scream at the top of the world that help, 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 help? So I think social media is like screaming. I mean, if they cannot scream, if someone else could help them scream, okay, I believe you're not getting oxygen cylinder. One thing is to empathize and sympathize. I can understand what you must be going through. I feel sorry for you. And another is to, actually try. What we can do, we can try, but we don't know what Krishna has in store for them. Now, but what if we try? I mean, in between, I got a message in one group wherein somebody said, a devotee was actually looking for plasma. And everybody was joining hands. And that night I couldn't sleep. I said, even I joined hands. And this devotee was looking for plasma in Delhi. And he was only 35 years old. He had, I believe, children. And a young wife, and I actually couldn't sleep in the night. Next morning, I started sending messages to everybody I knew in Delhi. And one person, stood up, I would be happy to donate my plasma. But then when I reached out to the devotee who was looking for, plasma, he said, I just got it from someone else. So at least, we can, whatever best we can do to serve in current times, based on time, place, circumstance. Prabhupada said, 10 miles, no one should go hungry. So a lot of temples are, doing free prasadam distribution to the ones who are affected.
Sure, Prabhu, that makes a lot of sense. That's a very practical way of dealing with situations. So thank you so very much.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shraddha Mataji. Jayadupti Mataji, go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Jai Shri
And
Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Wonderful explanation, Prabhuji. I have a question, like, if we see a devotee, like, person is disturbed, like, tense, or so, how can we make that person joyful, not for one day, for long term?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Years ago, I went through one study which actually said, there are 4 kinds of people. People operate at 4 different levels. So one level is, I am not okay, and everyone else around me is not okay. So they are the complete negatives. So they operate at a level which is level 4. And then, there are people who operate at a level where they feel that I am not okay, everyone else around me is okay. So they operate from a platform of inferiority complex. So if you present them a good idea, they will say, oh, I loved the idea, this is nice what you have worked on. But then the person will tell you that, when it comes to me, I can't do anything. I won't be able to do anything. But you go on with this. And there are people who operate at a 3rd level, which is superiority complex. They feel my way is the highway. What I say is right. My thing should be, and they don't listen to anyone else's ideas. Their mind and the ears are shut. And the 4th one are the optimists, who operate at a level where they feel they are okay and everyone else is okay. So it's like Uttam Adhikari. We have Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Kanishta Adhikari. So Uttam Adhikari sees good in everyone. He sees in good and he operates at that level. So the thing is, to bring them now, if we don't know at what level they are, if they are complete negatives, it takes good amount of effort and time to bring them out. And at times, if you are not ready, if you are not fully equipped, you might become like that person, hearing that negativity. So for them, at times you have to take that support system. Okay, if you come across something inspiring, like Narad Muni took support system of Puranjan when he was preaching to Prachani Barishad. So can you create or come across some videos, come across some quotes, which will actually could be hard hitting, could be soft hitting, which would actually subtly make that person think, oh, I need to change, I need to come out of this. So instead of direct, can we be indirect? Now it depends. Now if the person is at superiority complex, he'll shut his ears, he'll not listen to you. He'll think, I know what best I can do with my life. Who are you to tell me? So with different people, you have to have different approaches, and accordingly, they say in different strokes to different folks. So accordingly, you have to package. And love is the most powerful thing. The one biggest weapon which Prabhupada used to transform people who are in all kinds of possible categories was love. Give them as much love as possible. Everything which Prabhupada did, whether it was cooking prasad to serving prasad, he ensured that he gave as much love as possible. And then we see Prabhupada, and for that, one needs to evolve from hearing to listening. So in love, we need to evolve from, are we listening to others? Are we sensitive to others' needs? We might want them to be joyful, but do we know how much pain they are going through? First, we need to address that pain. How we can address that pain? If he has a physical ailment, can we help him address that physical ailment? If he has a mental trauma, can we help him come out of that mental state? So I think slowly and gradually, it's not an overnight process, but it's a slow and gradual process to change is the most difficult thing. I mean, in the corporate world, which I realized every company struggles is one thing, which is change.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you. I'll try my best. Yeah.
And second is we can pray for them as much as possible. Prayers work wonders, especially when devotees pray for others. Krishna actually listens many a time, but ultimately it's Krishna also has his plan.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. So I believe